Okay, so as promised, here is the monthly plug for Northwest Christian University. Clearly marked, so if you don't want to be advertised to, you don't have to be. Now, when it comes to talking about my school, I feel the same way about it as I feel about evangelism. I do not believe in hard sell. I do not believe in arm twisting. I believe in equipping people with information and then waiting for God to lead them. So I want to make myself available to answer questions, and I want to supply you with a little bit of what NCU is like, and because I believe in doing so in a balanced and ethical fashion, the way I'm going to organize this is I'm going to talk about ways that you would know that NCU was not for you. And then at the end of it, I'll talk about some of the things about NCU that if they attract you, then probably you'd be happy here. The first way that you would know that NCU is not for you is if you're the kind of person who, to be mentally healthy, you really need on a regular basis to be anonymous. You really need to be able to vanish into a crowd, to be left completely alone, but still be surrounded by people. We are right across the street from a college with 20,000 students, where that is very, very much a possibility. Before I came here, I taught at a school that had 13,000 students, and I have known the kind of person who, because of their makeup, that works for them. And if, as they walk around the campus from class to class, from appointment to appointment, if people are constantly saying hello, asking about them, inquiring, digging in, trying to see if they're doing okay, and essentially getting in their business, if they find that uncomfortable, if you find that uncomfortable, then NCU is going to make you miserable. It does have very much the small town feel. And anywhere you go, you're going to bump into lots of people who know you. As a matter of fact, it's more unusual to pass someone on the campus that you don't know at all. They usually at least look familiar. And the daytime undergraduate program has under 250 students in it. It is smaller than a lot of people's high schools who come here, and probably you're not going to high school, or at least not all of the time. But if anonymity, if regular anonymity is really, really important to you, then that's one of the signs that NCU might not be for you. A second way you might know that NCU was not for you would be if what you really, really want from your college is lots and lots of shiny toys. If you want your college to have a multi-billion-dollar endowment for all of the equipment to be cutting edge, just up the road from us in Portland, Reed College has one of the largest endowments for the size of school that it is that I am aware of. And for a private liberal arts college, they have their own nuclear reactor. Look it up. I'm not making that up. The school that I taught at back in Texas, Stephen F. Austin State University, I taught in the communication department, and they had a full-scale radio station and a full-scale working television station. Now, I will say, of colleges that have that sort of equipment, it is immensely, immensely difficult for them to be able to keep it cutting edge. At SFA, they had a working TV station. They also had hopelessly out-of-date editing bays so that they were editing on tape when the industry standard was already to edit digitally. So they were learning all of these specific skills. The editing skills and thinking like an editor, that was useful. But the specific skills of working on the tape machine, that was effectively useless the second they lost campus. And I think you'll find that all but a very few colleges lag behind the rate of change just because the kind of person you hire to be a professor and the kind of career track that professors follow, they get used to where their expertise is, and it's very, very difficult and doesn't fit in with the work demands at all for them to stay right on the leading edge of where things are. But if the college you're looking for, if you want to find a college where all of the equipment, all of the toys are shiny and new, then NCU might not be for you. The biology major has, at this time, a brand new lab space, and it's designed pretty much our chemistry and biology professors put their heads together, and they did the very best job of making it a modern, up-to-date lab space. But there are a lot of other programs around campus where we deal with a classroom and a marker board, and we deal with the content, and we deal with active hands-on learning and direct access to the professors, and what we don't always have is we don't always have the most up-to-date shiny toys. We have a much smaller endowment, we have much tighter budgets, but that's because the people who run the school have made the choice to do with less and operate on less to keep the school small. If we had lecture halls with 400 to 700 people in them, to where it wasn't so much teaching as crowd control, then we would have the kind of cash flow that let us put up all sorts of very impressive buildings that were no more than 5 years old, and then knock them down and put up more impressive buildings, and also for the equipment to be the kind of stuff that had come straight out of some inventor's imagination. But those are not the choices we've made, so we do not have a lot of shiny toys. The third thing that would be a sign that you're not going to be happy here. This doesn't happen that often, and I hope it doesn't seem condescending that I'm warning you off this, but we have students once in a while who come here, and it doesn't seem as though they have looked at the list of majors we've offered. So, we had a student a couple of years ago. She came here, and she was here the better part of 2 years, and anytime anyone talked to her about her career plans, she wanted to be a nursing major. We don't have a nursing major. Well, that's okay. Sometimes we have people who come in and they want to do the core, and they plan all along that after they do the core, they're going to transfer someplace else. And while they're here, they'll get good Bible instruction from good Bible professors who care a lot about them. They'll have the community here to help them transition out of childhood to college-level work and expectations. She was not one of those. We kept telling her, we don't have a nursing major. Well, that's okay. Well, I mean, are you here just for the core and then you're going to transfer? Well, no, I want to stay here all 4 years. Well, you need to declare a major. I want to major in nursing. We don't have a nursing program. Well, that's okay. And she finished up the core and just sort of wanted to start her nursing classes. We don't have a nursing program. So, what I would say is, as you're looking at the school, let's see, teacher education, business, including management and marketing, accounting, psychology, exercise science, biology, math, history, Christian ministry, Bible and theology, communication, and music and worship arts. And I hope I haven't left anything out because that would probably hurt the feelings of one of my colleagues. But if you didn't hear it in that list, then it's something that we don't offer. So if we're going to be a good fit for you, it should be because you've looked at the program that we have here and it excites you. The communication program here, as I've mentioned in other videos, is not a mass communication program, it's a speech communication program. So it's not preparation for a career in advertising or journalism, it's preparation really for, it's a toolbox. If you have only kind of a loose idea what line of work you're being led into, but you want whatever you do after college to be able to express yourself clearly and with impact, to avoid misunderstandings, to be a good listener, to be able to address a room full of people and do it effectively, then that's why you might want to major in speech communication. And if you have any questions about that major, then those are ones that you could email me and I could field them. So, the ways I think that you would know that NCU is not for you. If it's really important to you that from time to time you be anonymous, if you really need a college that deals in a lot of money and therefore has shiny toys, or if you need a major that we don't offer. If any of those things are true, then you've watched enough of the video, and I appreciate the fact that you paid attention this long. Let me go on and talk about 3 traits, 3 qualities of the school that if you find yourself attracted to them, then I think that you very well might be happy here. The first is, if you are the kind of person who likes opportunities to take part actively and you don't like having to wait in line behind lots of other people, then this may be the place for you to come. When you go to larger schools, you may find that the leadership positions in lots of organizations around campus, maybe you want to be in the theater program, maybe you want to be on the school paper or in school government, maybe you would like to be the research assistant for a particular professor, and very often when you arrive as a freshman, or even if you transfer in as a sophomore, they say, well, there are seniors who are currently doing all of that, you're going to have to pay your dues. You're going to have to hang back and prove yourself and basically do scut work and dirty work for a long time, and in your last year or last semester here, it'll be your chance. It's not true here. Chiefly because of the size of the school, the density of the student population, we routinely have sophomores become the student body president. And we have not had a theater program that endured from year to year, but on 2 occasions since I've been here, we've had students put their heads together, decide that they want to stage a play, round up people who are interested in acting, get creative and inventive about how to get the costumes, the props, how to build the set, where on campus to stage it, and they've pulled off some pretty impressive productions. And the thing was, the last time that happened, year before last, it was a sophomore who directed the whole thing. And a lot of, as I recall, the lead in the play was played by either a freshman or a sophomore. And at larger schools, you wouldn't really find that because the performance spaces would all be booked up. The chief parts would go to the juniors and seniors. The director would probably be a graduate student who was staging the production as her or his master's thesis. And so you would be told, well, stick around, do the publicity, do the makeup, be one of the assistants to the stage manager, and your turn will come. And that's not how things work at NCU. So if you like early on to get the opportunity to participate hands-on in the things that will build up your abilities, then NCU could be a great place for you. A second thing that I think we do well is the professors who are here. What I should say is the people who would teach you. You, first of all, would never, in your entire time here, be taught by a teaching assistant. We have teaching assistants who do limited tutoring sessions. They sometimes help with grading with low-level, low-stakes writing assignments in the core curriculum classes. We do not have any classes taught by teaching assistants. None at all. Furthermore, the faculty that we hire, the full-time faculty that we hire, just about all have a PhD. There's a campus-wide rule: if you want to be hired at a certain status, you have to have a PhD. Most colleges do not hold to that line. Most will accept in people who have only a master's degree. So we have people who have their doctorates, but they are people who have chosen to come to a school like this because they love to teach. These are not people who are constantly trying to negotiate away their teaching assignments, which at larger schools where the pressure is to publish, you will find that a lot of your professors are not available because they are in their labs or they are at home working on getting their latest publication out. But people who teach at NCU have made a choice that as the top priority, the part of their career they want to be judged and promoted on, they want to be excellent educators. So if that's the kind of thing that appeals to you, then NCU might be the place for you. The final thing that I think we get right, and I should say that I attended a Christian college. I went to Baylor. I got my bachelor's and my master's there. I went back in the late 1980s and the early 1990s, so a long time ago. So if anyone who sees this is currently considering Baylor, has visited Baylor, is even going to Baylor, I'm not talking about the Baylor of today, but I am talking about my experience of it. Let me get on to my point. What I think NCU does well is what I would call real Christianity, not magic Christianity. Colleges, Christian colleges, have a little bit of a problem with being a bubble, with being turned inward. And in my 6 years at Baylor, we had many discussions of the Baylor bubble. Now I have seen, since I left, that there are some efforts for Baylor to turn itself outward, to reach out into its community. NCU does an unbelievably good job of that. The University of Oregon is right across the street, and boy is it a mission field. And boy, do we have a lot of people who effortlessly form friendships, not just with the people they went to high school with, many of whom are going to the U of O, but with international students. International students from every part of the world, many of whom have never, ever, ever heard the gospel. We have a street drama team. They go and they perform periodically various places on the University of Oregon campus to start up conversations with people who are seeing the wordless dramas that act out various parts of the gospel message. We also have downtown Eugene, Oregon, and Eugene, oh my, Eugene is quite a town. Amtrak goes within about 2 blocks of downtown, which means we have a lot of runaway kids. We have a fair number of people who live on the street, and we have the campus ministry people are always looking for more and more opportunities for our students, our young 18 and 19-year-old students who've been kept very safe and very sheltered, to go out and hear real stories and hear real struggles. And we go in groups, we keep it safe, we go in broad daylight, we make arrangements to where this is not dangerous, but some of what you may have been taught about the world that had a lot of polish and a lot of prettiness to it, there are opportunities here to see up close that God's creation can be beautiful even when it's painful to look at. That you can see God at work even when you're dealing with people whose lives seem shattered and ruined, and it may be that that's what He's calling you to. That's the experience that a lot of our students have. And I make it sound like the only thing I'm talking about is what happens off campus, but on campus too. A lot of Christian colleges I know of, you have to sign a faith statement. You have to sign a covenant of faith to become a student at the university. We don't do that here. We recruit Christian students. We recruit through churches, youth groups, Christian schools, and so forth. Our faculty all sign a faith statement. Our faculty are believing, growing Christians, no question. But Among the student body, there are many students who identify as atheists. There are many students who come from different faith traditions. There are many students, we had one student a couple of years ago, the only one who's talked about it publicly, who for a while at least identified as Muslim and was learning a lot about the Islamic faith. We teach the Christian faith, and everybody who is doing the core curriculum will take the Bible and theology sequence. They'll take a couple of Christian ministry classes. So if an atheist comes to the school, they're going to be taught what the Bible says. They're going to be taught the gospel message. And in the social activities around campus, in the life groups and so forth, they'll have even more and more opportunities. The friends that they make very often will testify to them. But I think that's something that's really, really kind of beautiful. When you have a campus full of people who all signed a covenant and affirmed that they believe in one faith, you wind up with a very false to fact and a very incomplete view of what interaction, of what daily life is going to be after college. And I have occasionally talked to students who say, well, I already have my career all figured out. I already have my career all figured out, and I'm going to be in an environment surrounded by Christians. God's called me into the ministry, so I'm going to be a pastor. I'm going to work in a church. I'm going to be surrounded by Christians all day, so it's fine if I go to a college where I'm just surrounded by other believing Christians. If you think a pastor can be effective, if you think a pastor can really live out the call that God placed on that pastor's life, staying inside the church building and being surrounded by other Christians, and not learning over and over again in tough discussions, when you're wrestling with hard ideas, hearing the perspective of someone who is not a believer, or someone who almost believes but is at the point of struggling. If you don't have that in your background, and I don't mean as an occasional program, as an occasional let's go out and knock on doors and evangelize people, I mean every day, being immersed in it. If you think that without that experience you are really fully equipped to go out and do the work of a pastor or just about any other kind of ministry work, then I don't know. I guess I just see it differently from you based on the experience that I've had. The last thing that I think we do very, very well as far as real Christianity as opposed to magic Christianity, we have had a number of students, one that is popping into my head, had all kinds of leadership positions around campus and was a Christian ministry major in the pastoral ministry track. A man who felt very strongly that he was being called into the ministry to be the lead pastor of a church, and went through about a year and a half where his faith was shaken, and he had a long, dark night of the soul. And what he was able to do because of the ethos that we have here, because of the air and the culture that we have here at NCU, is he talked openly about it, and he was not shamed, not criticized, not warned. Instead, he was built up. People listened while he talked, while he explored. What were the objections that he couldn't get around? What were the feelings that were dragging him down? And people talked about their own struggles, and people were patient and gave it time and prayed with him and talked gently, not in a pounded out of existence, but in a let's work our way through this and understand it better. Talk gently about those objections he couldn't get around. And he is currently in seminary, and he is currently very confident. He's grown a lot in his faith. Sometimes you have to have it tested almost to the breaking point and come back. But when that testing comes, if the climate surrounding you is one of fear, one of failure is being held over your head as the goad, as the whip to get you back on path, that's not the approach that we have here. Instead, we know that those struggles are real. We know that coming perilously close to the edge and wondering how am I going to find my way back, for a lot of people, that's part of it. That's the path that God knew that they would follow. And so the fact that we are committed together to handling people who are at that point on the path gently and lovingly, and following that path with them, knowing that God has not forgotten them and is still directing their path, that I think is just a better approach. So, what I think we do well here, I think we first of all do well as far as not making you wait your turn. You can step right into a leadership position. If you get here and want to stage a play and there's not currently an active theater program, fire it up. You'll find that everybody around you will cheer you on and offer you any help and resources that they've got. I think secondly, you'll find professors who want to be educators, because they sure wouldn't be here if they didn't want to be, because that is what's expected of them. It's not about publication, and it's not about pushing your teaching responsibilities off on TAs. It's about teaching. And finally, real Christianity, not magic Christianity, turned outward to a community, and boy is it hurting. on campus, sitting side by side in your Bible class with people who are atheists or believers in other faiths. And if you come to a point where you're not even sure if you believe, being able, encouraged to talk about it openly, to go into the problem and through it, not to run away from it. Thank you very much for giving me a chance to make a case for the school, and God is going to take you to the place where you belong. And if you wind up among us, then I will look forward to meeting you.